Hi, I'm Nicole Crane with the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. Thank you for joining me today on this post-election analysis on November 9th, 2022. Also with me is ABI Vice President, Public Policy, JD Davis, and ABI Director, Public Policy, Brad Hartkoff. We have the two experts here with me, and I'm excited to talk about what happened last night on election night 2022. So let's just kick it off. There was a lot of talk about a red wave nationwide. As we look at the results, did that happen? What happened in Iowa? I'll turn it over to you guys to start.
Well, simply the red wave crashed before it hit shore. So even though pundits and pollsters were telling us this was going to be a big election cycle for Republicans, it seems that it was more kind of a middling election. Control of the Senate and the House are still up in the air with several races where votes are still being counted. We'll know more, and all of us will have to monitor our news cycles to see just how that's playing out. Brad, your thoughts on the House?
Yeah, I think on the House side, it looks like Republicans still have a decent opportunity to take the majority. But to your point, it's not going to be the majority that everybody was thinking it would be a few days ago. Kevin McCarthy, the likely next Speaker of the House, might be working with 5 to 10 member advantage. And so it will be interesting to see how they work in divided government if they don't take the Senate, the Republicans. And so we're working with President Biden as well. So a lot of budget work, a lot of probably investigations, those sorts of things. And so a lot to keep our eye on moving forward.
And we've talked about it ourselves. This also puts a real highlight on the importance for party control, should it go to Republicans, of State Senator Zach Nunn defeating Congresswoman Cindy Axne in Iowa. That will be among the handful or two of turnover seats that will form a Republican majority should it come to pass.
So for the first time, you mentioned Zach Nunn. So for the first time in several years, the Iowa delegation in Washington, D.C. is completely represented by Republicans, including re-electing U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley back to the U.S. Senate. So let's talk, though, clearly it was red in Iowa. Let's talk about the statewides. Also seem to be red. High line on that, Brad and JD?
Yeah, I think kind of a contrast to the national level. Iowa was a red wave, I think, by any stretch of the definition. How you look at the statewide races, whether it's Governor Reynolds winning by 19 or 20 points. You look at the Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Naig, Secretary of State, Paul Pate. They won by significant margins. You look at the two victories over Democrats for Republicans in the Attorney General race, and then the Treasurer's race. Two longtime incumbents, Tom Miller and Mike Fitzgerald, fell to Brenna Bird and then Senator Robbie Smith. And so people really had their eye on those races. They were very close, but the Republicans did prevail there. And it does seem like Auditor Rob Sand is going to win his reelection. And I think that race was a lot closer than people might have expected coming into election night.
Great. And so from the IPAC perspective, IPAC Friend to Business endorsed candidates went 5 for 5 on those statewide races. JD, just real briefly, you mentioned something earlier today about the sitting Attorney General, his role nationwide, and
yeah, in my recollection, I'm not aware of an Attorney General who's been appointed by his peers to be the head of the National Attorney Generals Association being defeated. And this has happened to Tom Miller after 40 years in office. So that's quite a deal. And, you know, Tom Miller has been an amiable Attorney General, but with Brenna Bird taking over, I think we're going to see a much more pro-growth, pro-business stance in the Attorney General's office. We will have a job to do to help her transform that office. It will take time with the staff that has been able to make careers there to get kind of that new feeling that she's wanting to have for the way to run the office to sink in, but look forward to that transition.
Great. Well, thanks for that insight on the statewide races. As we move to the state legislative races, let's talk about the Iowa House. Another great night in the Iowa House for IPAC endorsed candidates. A lot of new faces. So Brad, why don't you tell a little about the House and what's going on there?
Well, starting with the IPAC news, we're proud to announce that 46 of 48 candidates that the IPAC board endorsed won their races in the lower chamber. And to your point, Nicole, about new faces, we're going to see 40 new faces. That's 40% of the House will be new members coming into next year. And so JD and I have a lot of work ahead of us now that we know the election results. Between now and session, we'll be meeting with folks that maybe we didn't have the opportunity to see before election night. So a lot of education ahead. And just to comment briefly on a couple of trends that I'm following in the House. We were looking at Polk County suburban races as a key hotspot to see how things might work last night. And then I'm also tracking blue collar, working class, historically Democratic districts, thinking about places in Ottumwa, Burlington, Clinton, Davenport. A lot of Republican candidates had success there last night, including former ABI board member Tom Detterman winning up in Clinton. And so we're excited to work with Tom and others who are business friendly, and we think the future is bright for our cause up at the Capitol.
Great, thanks. So that's a lot of new faces in the House. We moved to the Senate. JD, what I'm seeing is there's 14 new members coming in the Senate. What does that mean? How did IPAC do last night in the Senate, and what do we have ahead of us in 2023?
Yeah. Similar to the House, IPAC had a very good night with the Senate. We had 16 of 17 endorsed candidates prevailed last night. Our loss was State Senator Jake Chapman, who was matched up against another sitting state senator in Sarah Trone Garrett in the Adel Waukee area. The other highlights, probably foremost for ABI, ABI supported former House member, now Senator-elect Mike Buslow, who was the floor manager of the unemployment bill in the House. We took a special interest in that campaign, not only endorsing and supporting with IPAC contributions, but also a very strong online presence in the district, 800,000 individual contacts with voters through their electronic devices, to kind of electronic yard signs, trying to drive people to the poll. Very pleased with the outcome there. The other matchup between sitting senators was Don Driscoll and Kevin Kinney, and Don, who's been a very thoughtful senator and supporter of ABI initiatives, prevailed there. But 14 new senators, that's a high watermark of new faces in the Senate. The Senate has 4-year terms, moves much more slowly as far as turnover goes. So no less a steep hill for education purposes in the Senate, but looking forward to working with the folks that were selected.
Great. Well, it was quite the night for IPAC and for Iowa business leaders. And Brad and JD, as you mentioned, lots of opportunities for education. Brad and JD can't do it alone. ABI can't do it without all of you. So we hope that you will take the opportunity to meet your new legislators over the next couple of months before the 2023 session. If you'd like to set up a visit, you'd like JD and Brad to join you, let us know. We're happy to help coordinate that and connect you with your new elected official. And then save the date. Registration is open for our ABI legislative briefing and reception on January 11th, 2023. Thank you again for all you do. If you'd like more information, contact Brad and JD, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.